What is medical anthropology? A medical anthropologist is one who studies health or illnesses associated with beliefs or practices. Medical anthropologists are realizing that social and biological factors play a much larger role in order to reduce the human suffering our globe is currently facing. An example of medical problems that is both social and biological would be one of the leading causes of infant deaths in third world countries. Diarrhea is biologically a bacterial infection, but socially it is related to those who live in poverty. Thus, a person living in that social setting is more likely to be infected. Another example would be malnutrition. Biologically, malnutrition can happen to anyone who is not receiving the proper nutrients needed to fill the body. However, in social areas that lack the required nutrients or methods to provide the nourishment, are more likely to, as a whole community, suffer in the long run. Cultural understanding of health and medicine. To an anthropologist, ethnomedicine is understanding health related beliefs, knowledges, or practices of a cultural group. Medicine in our culture is believed to be based on facts. However, this is only a reflection of the culture in which we live in. In our culture, we rely on the ideas of researchers. However, researchers often base many ideas off of the culture in which they reside. According to our text, the example of childbirth is given. Before, in the United States, fathers were excluded from the birthing process, and mothers were only given limited time with their offspring because of the harm that may come to the baby. This process, which became standardized, was not provided with any scientific reasoning, rather, it was suggested to the doctors at their place of study. According to the text, this is referred to as the biomedical paradigm. Concepts of balance and equilibrium. Taking medicine out of the modern and into the holistic, it is often believed that the body requires a certain balance. These concepts are not limited to two things being opposites, such as hot or cold. The text gives the example of an ancient Greek system of medicine that is believed to have four balances: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. This concept is known as the four humor theory, which spread across the world throughout Europe and in many parts of the Islamic world until the 1900s, where it was replaced by the germ theory. Another example is the Ayurvedic system, which is constructed on three humors: phlegm, bile, and flatulence. The Chinese theory of yin and yang is probably the most commonly heard of, the balance of heat and cold. If the body lacks one of those substances, then it is out of balance and can be replaced by replenishing oneself with the required nutrients. Biomedical paradigm. As a society, we are quick to believe whatever we read or whatever the most current trend is in health. In the Western culture, with the various types of medicine, it can be confusing to what is real and what is not. An example from the text was that of acupuncture. Western medicine denied the positive effects of acupuncture until recently realizing that it does possess positive qualities of healing. This is an example because there is no scientific reasoning on our part for it not being positive, rather, it was just different from our culture. Biomedicine, to an anthropologist, refers to this as overall health not being the main focus of our current medicine. Rather, it is the focus on a specific disease. As a society, we want to go to a doctor and be cured from that ailment, rather than taking an anthropological approach to our illness and seeing the psychological effects of that disease, or how, as a culture, we might be promoting that disease. Treatment of illness. Treatments for illness can fall into two categories, relativistic and universalistic. The relativistic approach believes that there are few, if not any, cross-cultural universals between illnesses. What this means is that each culture is unique in their own way, and the treatment for disease from one culture to another can be completely different, yet it can still work. To a universalistic approach, it is believed that there are many common similarities in cures or treatments for an illness. Oftentimes, many remedies from plants may contain the same chemicals that are seen in the prescribed medicine of our Western culture.
Cecil Hellman is a medical anthropologist. He has traveled to various cultures to collect patients' personal narratives concerning their experiences with both health and treatments. He then compared and contrasted medical care in relation to social and cultural norms. To do this, he used participant observation, cross-cultural research, and fieldwork. Participant observation allowed him to live amongst those in a certain culture and record observations. He then compared these observations to other cultures that he'd also observed. He also did fieldwork where he worked as a medical practitioner in these different cultures. He used this information for written work in textbooks, academic journals, and medical journals. In addition to his skills in medical anthropology, he has a background in medicine, a talent for writing, and the ability to adapt to cultural variances. Paul Farmer. Paul Farmer is a medical anthropologist. He provides healthcare to rural and under-resourced areas of developing countries. To do this, he does field work where he serves as a medical practitioner in these under-resourced countries. He also uses cross-cultural comparisons to determine which areas need his help the most. He is also a co-founder of Partners in Health, a global initiative to provide accessible health care to the world. In addition to his skills as a medical anthropologist, Paul Farmer uses networking, his extensive medical knowledge, and his access to resources in order to make a difference. There are many realms to medical anthropology. However, we chose to focus on three. These include economics, politics, and nutrition, and the influences they have on the healthcare in different cultures. Many medical anthropologists study the economics of a region. Economics contributes to the education of the population, the resources that they have access to, and the cost of care. All of these elements influence the different types of healthcare people receive and how well the people are treated. Politics is another realm that medical anthropologists study. The type of healthcare that people receive is heavily influenced by politics. For instance, in South Africa, when AIDS first became a disease, the Prime Minister refused to admit that it was sexually transmitted. Therefore, he denied its existence as a disease and people were not able to obtain health care. The cost of treatment is also heavily influenced by politics. Politics determine the type of economy that a culture has, whether it be free health care due to an increase in taxes, or a market economy where the cost of care is competitive. Politics also contribute to the access that people have to health care. For instance, if a country is in civil war, they may shut down different hospitals, or there may be an influx of injured people, and the citizens may not be able to receive the care that they need in a timely manner. Malnutrition is a problem that exists across the world. Medical anthropologists study the types of nutrition that different communities receive in order to correlate that to the diseases that exist and the health care that they may receive. Medical anthropology is not a realm of anthropology that exists without any outside help. Medical anthropology often relies on different realms of anthropology for information in order to continue their research and make discoveries. Medical practitioners differ across cultures. Here in the United States, we have doctors, and we have a doctor-patient system. However, in other cultures, there may be healing men, or there may be ritualistic dance used to cure diseases. These have been studied by other anthropologists, and medical anthropologists use the knowledge gathered by those anthropologists to introduce different types of medicine into the various cultures. HIV/AIDS has been a disease that has been studied by medical anthropologists. However, in order to gain information on the disease, they rely on other realms of anthropology. Ethnology, or cultural anthropology, was used to determine how the disease was spread. HIV/AIDS is sex-linked, and knowing the sexual practices of different cultures helped medical anthropologists trace the disease. Biological anthropology was also used. Biological anthropology determined that the disease was not genetic, however, that it could be passed on from parent to child.